I find mental health fascinating. It's one of those areas where small insights can transform how you see the world and lead to long lasting benefits that last for years. Now, this is not a small problem, as over half the population suffer from either anxiety or depression of some sort. In the past, I actually suffered from anxiety myself. And let me tell you, it's no fun dealing with anxiety. That sinking feeling in your gut, being consumed by fear of impending doom, not being able to enjoy your normal activities, constantly worrying about something bad is going to happen. It's no fun. And you don't have to live that way, honestly.
The good news is that anxiety is also one of the most treatable mental disorders. There are a number of highly effective treatments for it. Just a few sessions of psychotherapy alone can reduce or eliminate symptoms. The connection between mind and body is fascinating. So without further delay, let's jump into it.
I want to change your perspective on anxiety and offer some practical tips that I found highly effective in the past for myself. First, a disclaimer though, I'm not a doctor in any way, nor have I ever been. I'm only talking from personal experience. But what is anxiety? The best description I've ever heard of anxiety is that depression is regret of the past, while anxiety is the fear of the future. It is nothing but a fear of a future state. This fear leads to activating our sympathetic nervous system, which then activates in turn the fight or flight or freeze response. Your body is preparing itself for something dramatic to happen, like a tiger jumping out of the bush at you. So how do we prevent this? There are a number of approaches we can take, but I think they can all be best summarized by the Stoic philosopher Seneca when he said, "We suffer more in imagination than we do in reality." Now let me explain. One of the great abilities that humans have is being able to imagine the future. We do this better than any other animal out there. Our imaginations are really next level. They are an incredible, powerful tool. However, we can also turn this ability on ourselves. Often when we face anxiety, it's because our imaginations are over dramatic in the bad things that are going to happen to us. Another quote from Seneca that I really enjoy is, "He who suffers more than necessary is he who suffers before it is necessary." When we have anxiety, it's normally because an event happened to us that makes us worried about the future. For example, your boss may say to you something like, "I'm not happy with your work." Then all weekend you obsess over what he meant by that. And then what happens if you get fired? Being the social creatures we are, we're often very sensitive to small changes in the social order. In the old days, being expelled from the tribe meant that you were on your own and your chance of survival were greatly diminished. So, to overcome this, you need to change your perspective on things. First technique to overcoming anxiety is realizing that anxiety is always a lie. Become aware of what you are comparing yourself to. Awareness is always the first step. You need to be able to check your imagination and put it into perspective. To do this, you can ask two questions. Bad compared to what, and how bad? To do this, first you can do an exercise which is called fear setting. In this exercise, you imagine the best possible outcome and you imagine the worst possible outcome. And it's best that if you be over the top in your imagination. So imagine that if you get your job, it gets fired, then you're going to lose your house. Your girlfriend's going to leave you. Your dog's going to not be able to have a place to play. It's going to get hit by a car in the streets. You're going to get sick on the streets and you're going to end up dying in the gutter somewhere. Be ruthlessly cynical in your imagination. Then you imagine the best possible imagination. You lose your job. You go find a better job. The next day, this better job leads to you getting a big promotion. You then soon are the CEO of a major company, living in lavish. It's a great life with your girlfriend and dog. Now, both of these are very unlikely, but by taking both into consideration, it helps you find a better perspective to put your fears into. So it's probably going to be, the reality is probably going to be someplace in the middle. But by seeing both extremes, you can see that, oh, the fears that you're having are probably a little bit more on the negative side than they need to be, and that they should be tempered more to the middles. This I constantly keep going back to the most often is a practice of gratitude. Being the social creatures that we are, we constantly compare ourselves to others. Online, we are constantly bombarded with heavily edited stars that we are supposed to glamorize, or we're bombarded with commercials telling us happiness is just one purchase away. This online content makes us feel flawed and inadequate. And when we're not listening to that, we're probably listening to some news or YouTuber telling us how society is terrible and on the verge of collapse. This is the path through. When you're feeling down, feeling like you don't have a hope for tomorrow, and you fear what may come the next day, just take that moment to step back and be grateful for the things that you do have. Now, we live in one of the best periods of time to ever live. And most of you listening are probably from very wealthy countries. Many of us have never experienced true starvation, never experienced a pandemic that killed 60% of the population, or have never had to fear constant war around us. We live better than most kings and queens of the past. For example, consider the life of Nathan Rothschild, who lived from 1777 to 1836. He was one of the richest men to ever live. When you account for his inflation, he's far richer than Bill Gates or Warren Buffett today. Yet, he never had the opportunity to drive in a car. He never rode on a train. He never was on an aircraft of any sorts. Nor did he visit the Taj Mahal. Never heard of recorded music. Never seen a film. Never made a phone call. Or ever used electricity. And he was dead at the age of 58 from an illness that could today be cured with an antibiotic costing only a few pennies. Faith is an underappreciated and incredibly valuable mindset to cultivate. Have faith that you'll be okay even when hard times come. Stoics recommend it, willingly exposing yourself to hardship, so you know that even if hard times come, it's not worth fearing. Stoic philosopher Seneca suggested, set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, is this the condition that I feared? Have confidence that even if hard times come, you will be okay through them. Perspective can also help us focus on what is important. Don't suffer over the small stuff, like a lost coat or spilled milk. Step back and truly evaluate what is important to you and what is just trivial. Think about what you value most. Often this is the thing that you turn to when everything else is going wrong and say to yourself, at least I have that. Without purpose, we are like a ship without a rudder, and we will be wrecked by the storms of our life. I personally find having a relationship with God to be the most important thing in my life. This mindset I find is best captured in Matthew 10:28. Fear not the one that can take your life, but the one that can take your life and soul. Another valuable practice is finding the good in every situation. When something bad happens, instead of getting frustrated, bent out of shape, try to look for the good in it. See the positive that can come from a bad situation. An old Chinese proverb tells the story of a farmer's fortunes. A farmer and his son had a beloved black stallion that helped their family survive. One day, the stallion ran off into barbarian territory. All the neighbors said, "Oh, what bad luck, your horse ran away." But the old farmer, being wise as he had, simply replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." A few days later, the stallion came back, bringing with him several horses. All the farmer's neighbors said, "Oh, what good luck! Your horse has returned and brought many back with it." To this the farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." A few weeks later, the farmer's son, while riding one of the new horses, was thrown from its saddle, and he broke his leg. Again, all the neighbors said, "Oh, what bad luck, your son has broken his leg." To this the farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." Another few weeks later pass, and barbarians start to invade across the border. All the young men in the village are drafted into the army. They did not take the farmer's boy, though, because he was crippled. To this the neighbors once again say, "What good luck your son does not have to fight." And again the farmer simply replies, "Maybe so, maybe not." Your circumstances will change your life. Try to see the good that comes with the bad. This mindset, I think, is best captured by Jocko Willink in his video about good. It will inspire and change your perspective on problems. I highly recommend checking that out. Link is in the description below. Instead of focusing on the mind, you can also focus on the body's response to anxiety. When we're feeling anxious, it is the body going into a fight or flight response. Once you become aware of your body's reaction, you can use several techniques to relax the body. The best, in my experience, is a breathing exercise. Simply breathe in for the count of 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, and then breathe out for the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Doing it just now, you can also see the effect it has on your body. Another technique you can use is body scanning. This is where you become self-aware of your body and identify where you're holding stress and tension in your body when you're tensing your muscles up. This is normally done because your body's getting ready to either take a hit or to go on a marathon sprint to get away from some danger. Being able to become aware of where you're holding the stress can allow you to relieve that stress and relax. Finally, we have turning anxiety into excitement. Anxiety and excitement both have very similar reactions within the body, so it's very easy to change one into the other. For example, if you've ever given a public talk of any sort, you've probably experienced that race of butterflies in your stomach, the pounding of your heart as you're just about to go on. If you, at that moment, instead of feeling worried about what's going to happen, feel excited to share what you have, you're going to see an instant transformation in yourself as how you approach the situation. And studies have shown that they're actually, when you willingly take on a challenge, it activates a different pathway within the brain, which leads to a much better outcome and helps avoid the anxiety response. Now, I'll leave you with a quote from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day. God bless.